Welcome back. Concluding the Russia-Africa summit held in Russian city Sochi, the president and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin held a joint press conference where they reviewed the main topics tackled during the sessions of the summit. President al-Sisi expressed his appreciation to the Russian president for hosting the summit and stressed the significance of the Russian-African cooperation during the coming period. The president also reiterated that Egypt always exerts utmost efforts for achieving Africa's development and achieving its security and stability through its presidency of the African Union. For his part, Putin said that Russia is looking forward to enhanced ties with African countries, especially in fields of trade, economy, energy, and investment. And meanwhile, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Russian President Vladimir Putin also witnessed the signing of a number of agreements and memorandums of understanding between Russia and African Union. The first MOU signed by the Russian Foreign Minister and the head of AU stimulate bases of cooperation and mutual relations in various domains. The second agreement aims at boosting joint cooperation between African Union and Euro-Asian Union during the coming period. And President al-Sisi said on Thursday that the strong bonds and common aspirations and challenges shared by African and Russian peoples create a common ground for boosting the African-Russian cooperation. The president was speaking at the first session of the Russia-Africa summit being held in Sochi. The session was co-chaired by President al-Sisi and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin.
President Fattah al-Sisi confirmed on Thursday that African and Russian peoples share strong bonds, aspirations and challenges. Addressing the first general session of Russia-Africa Summit, the President said that these bonds prove the need to enhance the African-Russian cooperation. The President reiterated the need to support the African Union policy of reconstruction and development after settling conflicts and creating resilience to prevent the recurrence of conflicts and to strengthen the state's institutions to be able to protect their countries. El-Sisi said that combating terrorism is a priority for the international and African peace and security agenda, reaffirming that the battle is hard and complicated. He added that a comprehensive confrontation to terrorism is the best way to uproot it. President el-Sisi invited Russian President Vladimir Putin and African heads of states to participate in the first Aswan Forum for Peace and Sustainable Development to be held on the 11th and 12th of December 2019. He also called on them to take part in the forum's discussion to enrich the debate on the main issues. For his part, Putin said that Russia-Africa Summit is the start of a cooperation between the two sides. He noted that upgrading the level of economic trade and social cooperation is one of priorities to Russia. Putin said that President el-Sisi, as the current chairman of the African Union, played a key role in preparing for the Russia-Africa Summit. President el-Sisi and his Russian counterpart co-chaired the first general session of the Russia-Africa Summit being held in the city of Sochi. The Russian president expressed his concern over the state of instability in Africa, pointing to a number of internal conflicts as well as political, economic and social crises. Putin said that Africa is confronting terrorism, extremist ideologies, crossing border crimes and piracy, adding that some countries are facing the consequences of the so-called Arab Spring, which led to instability in North Africa.
On the sidelines of the first Russia-Africa Summit, President al-Sisi met with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. The talks covered the file of the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam in the light of the latest development.
Ahead of holding the first general session of Russia-Africa Summit, President Fattah al-Sisi met with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Bassam Rodi said that the meeting was held on the sidelines of the summit, being held on the Russian city of Sochi. The talks covered the file of the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam in light of the latest developments. In this regard, Abiy said that his latest statements were taken out of their context, reiterating his full appreciation and respect for Egypt's leadership and people. He said that his statements included Ethiopia's commitment to establish the dam without causing harm to the downstream countries. He confirmed that Ethiopian government and people have no intention to cause any harm to the interests of the Egyptian people. The Ethiopian Prime Minister said that stability of Egypt and Ethiopia is an added value to the whole continent. He reiterated commitment to what has been declared by his country about sticking to the path of negotiations to reach a final agreement. The presidential spokesman said that President Sisi told the Ethiopia Prime Minister that Egypt showed understanding for the Ethiopia's developmental needs. However, Egypt is determined to preserve its historical rights in Nile water. The president said that Ethiopia should not seek to achieve development at the expense of Egypt's historical rights. Sisi said that the establishment of the dam should strike a balance between interests of the upstream and downstream countries and should not be a reason for conflict.
Prime Minister Mustafa Mabuli held a meeting on Thursday to follow up on the latest developments of the new project of establishing logistics stores for medicines in presence of ministers of health and public business sector. Mabuli reviewed the situation of these stores in places where they would be established. The stores are consisted of a strategic one which will serve Cairo, a new administrative capital, and other 5 stores which will serve the rest of the country's governorates. Meanwhile, the Premier called on concerned bodies to set their final vision for the project's executing measures within a week. The Cabinet on Thursday assigned officials in the cities looking over Mediterranean Sea, Delta and Suez Canal, as well as North and Central Sinai, to be on high alert and to be prepared for unstable weather conditions. The Cabinet also urged citizens in the mentioned cities to stay at home on Friday and never get out unless it's very necessary. Egyptian Meteorological Authority expected moderate weather on Friday across the northern coast, accompanied by heavy rainfalls across the northern areas and moderate rains across lower Egypt and Cairo.
And to details. Egypt's stock market indices gained £3.5 billion on Thursday, being bolstered by purchasing operations by Arab and foreign investors. The main EGX 30 gained 0.57%. The small and medium EGX 70 soared 0.4%. The more expanded EGX 100 added 0.45%. The overall transactions and dealings within the session reached £1.8 billion. And to details. Zamalek qualified for the group stage of the Africa Champions League after beating Senegal's Generation Foot 1-0 in the second leg of the 32nd round at El Salam Stadium on Thursday. Generation's Gabriel Diop scored in his own net, thus giving Zamalek the chance to qualify. In the first leg match, Generation Foot beat Zamalek 2-1.